Tang Yuyu, whose soul pierces the Douluo continent and is bound to a chaotic time and space Luoli storyline development system, was adopted by old Jack and brought back to the novice village. Ding, release the task to sign in at the Jingshui Lake where the Water Prince is located and obtain a Holy Fairy Inner Pill. Holy Water Pearl. Ding, the Fire Lord is unable to control the fire element and loses control of himself. Go to the famous scene to sign in and receive a reward. Holy Fire Mind Technique. Ding, the strongest golden prince in the fairyland is about to become a beast controlled by money. Please stop the beastly golden prince from saving Yi Luoli's fairyland and receive a reward. The Golden Bone Sword. Watching these tasks unrelated to Douluo continent, Tang Yuyu fell into contemplation. It wasn't until the day when my martial soul awakened that I realized my martial soul was actually a butterfly fairy set up while playing games. The divine aura of light, combined with the metallic overlap, made Tang Erchui, who was reclusive here, believe that Tang Yuyu's martial soul was a humanoid beast soul mutated from an angel. Tang, who was preparing to assassinate in secret in order not to reveal his whereabouts with Tang's San Air hammer, discovered that Tang Yuyu actually had the same Haotian hammer as herself. The story has changed since then is the complex interpersonal relationships and the elusive destiny that shapes one's destiny, the guide of fate or the abyss that points to the end of everything. Keywords of the novel. Douluo. Obtaining the mirror power of Mandora at the beginning without pop-ups. Douluo. Obtaining the mirror power of Mandora at the beginning. Download the complete set of TXT, Douluo. Obtaining the mirror power of Mandora at the beginning. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Opening awakens the power of mirror. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Opening awakens the power of mirror. Thank you for your invitation. What is the experience of being in Douluo continent and bound to an unrelated system? Tang Yuyu looked at the system panel in front of her, lost in thought. Host. Tang Yuyu identity. Yi Luoli is a mysterious fairy from a certain background in the fairyland. Bloodline. Elf magic background. The guardian of the Yelyalai royal family, who controls the power of time and destiny, has been sealed with a layer of metal protection magic by the Golden Prince. It can activate some metal magic. The appearance looks like a music box, with only a fairy on the surface who can use music magic. Current storyline. After the battle between Queen Mandora and Fairy Sinling fled to the human world with some supporters. System backpack. A beginner gift pack daily task. 1. Go to the Jingshui Lake where the Water Prince is located and sign in, reward 1 holy water pill with Millennium Immortal Power. Due to the influence of the human world, the Fire Lord cannot control his magic. He goes to the famous scene to sign in and receive a reward. The Holy Fire Heart Technique. Hey. Looking at the familiar plot, she seemed to remember that she had been playing a mobile game before traveling. The fairy identity set by my own account is the image of Alun's Linglong core, which is used as a newbie task for the storyline. However, I was too excited and stayed up late until 5 a.m., resulting in sudden death. So after sudden death, I came to this Douluo continent and was also bound to this storyline mission system. Tang Yuyu twitched at the corner of her mouth, never expecting that the golden finger was actually an unrelated system. What's the use of this? There's actually a beginner's gift package. Let me see what it is. Out of curiosity, she opened the beginner's gift pack directly. Ding! Congratulations to the host for randomly obtaining Mandora's mirror power. Before Tang Yuyu had time to be happy, she felt like something was added to her mind. Good guy. This is copy and paste, the legendary CV warrior. You have to be a queen, this ability is quite abnormal, you can copy whatever you want. Tang Yuyu closed her eyes and thought about what old Jack looked like in her mind. Suddenly, her small body grew taller, but it also became even older, even her back became hunched. She reached out her hand and glanced at it, only to find that it was covered in old wrinkles. Surprisingly, it really succeeded. Tang Yuyu is full of surprises. It is worthy of being a mirror. It is not the same, but its appearance and temperament are not much different. As long as Tang Yuyu doesn't speak, she can't recognize it. Yo-yo. Today is the day when the martial soul awakens. Hurry up and come out, don't sleep in. Old Jack's voice came from outside, and Tang Yuyu panicked and changed back to her original appearance. Got it, Grandpa. Although the system was only bound today, she has traveled to Douluo continent for several years. If it weren't for old Jack bringing Tang Yuyu back to Holy Soul Village to support her, she would have died long ago. Tang Yuyu still admires and loves this kind and amiable old man. After retracting the power of the mirror and using it, Tang Yuyu dressed neatly and looked in the mirror. She found nothing wrong and went out to find old Jack. She was actually a bit nervous about the awakening of her martial soul. Even after binding to this system, she still has little confidence in awakening her martial soul, but now. He mirror power directly copies a martial soul. Ah, how fragrant. Thinking of this, Tang Yuyu smiled sweetly and said to old Jack. Grandpa, let's go quickly. I can't wait to awaken my martial soul. Old Jack affectionately touched his granddaughter's head and smiled happily. Okay. We haven't all arrived yet, let's wait for the third child first. Tang Yuyu rolled her eyes and nodded. To be honest, she didn't quite like Tang San's little brat. Having lived here for nearly 3 to 4 years, Tang Yuyu had little contact with Tang San. At most, she was just passing a message or delivering some food for old Jack to Tang Hao's house. That kid keeps a straight face all day, not at all like his peers. I really don't know how Tang Erchui, as a titled Douluo, didn't notice any abnormalities. Although he occasionally admires the kind of obedient gaze that his elders show, Tang Yuyu can see a hint of arrogance and neglect in his eyes when getting close to him. I'm afraid he just feels like a little kid his age doesn't deserve to play with him at all. Humph. Although not very malicious, it is extremely insulting. Grandpa Jack. Yo-yo. Tang San ran over panting heavily, greeted Jack first, and then casually greeted Tang Yuyu. The mistress is here, Alright, let's go then. Jack has no resistance to this kind of well-behaved child. Tang San has been sensible since childhood, and he always sees it in his eyes, so he can't help but want to help this child more. After all, his useless father is just ridiculous. Tang Yuyu greeted Tang San with a coquettish snort and then ignored her. Old Jack didn't scold Tang Yuyu for being impolite, but just touched his granddaughter's head. However, the party involved, Tang San, did not pay any attention to such a little brat. A group of 3 quickly arrived at the entrance of the Martial Soul Hall in the village, claiming to be the place where the Martial Soul Hall awakened its martial soul, but in reality, it was just a dilapidated thatched cottage. Alright, everyone is here, right? A man in a knightly uniform looked at old Jack and said. Respected Soul Master, everyone is here. The martial soul awakening ceremony can begin now. Suyantao nodded, with a hint of impatience between his eyebrows. To be honest, there are very few people in these villages who can awaken their soul power. But who let this be the job assigned to him by the Martial Soul Hall? He has already run to dozens of villages big and small below Nodding City, and he has not awakened a few children with soul power. Hope to have some gains today. Tang Yuyu followed the large army into the small thatched cottage, and in order to prevent herself from losing her martial soul, she walked behind Tang San. If Tang San hides the Haotian hammer in this position later, she will happen to see it. Facilitate her to use the mirror power to replicate a Haotian hammer martial soul. Although the quality of the Blue-Silver Emperor is also good. The awakening of the Blue-Silver Emperor's bloodline can only occur once a generation, so Tang Yuyu decisively gave up. Although copying the Haotian hammer without the martial soul carries a high risk of being received by the martial soul hall, the blind Douluo Su Yuntao, who claims to be the first trader of the martial soul hall, is in front of her. What if he doesn't see it? No matter how unlucky there is Tang Hao, a fanatic fan of the Haotian sect, he will definitely bring himself when fleeing for the sake of the Haotian hammer. Tang Yuyu calculated everything possible, but unfortunately she didn't know that the plan couldn't keep up with the changes. Next. Su Yuntao looked at the chaotic martial souls of the sickle, blue silver grass, and felt a headache. That's probably another trip in vain. P.S. Family members, this book leans towards the perspective of soul beasts and does not stand in the martial soul hall, but it will not completely follow the original plot. The protagonist is set as the newly born emperor auspicious beast of the soul beast family, and the main plot is to break the rules of heaven and earth that prevent soul beasts from becoming gods. I personally think that the essence of the martial soul hall and the two empires is that the nobles lead the common people to overthrow the rule of the nobles. As a soul master organization, the martial soul hall has both positive and negative aspects. It can be said that the martial soul hall has grown in the hands of Bibidong, but if the steps are too big and the pants are too wide, the final outcome is destruction. In this book, only Yu Shaojiang is involved in the complete abuse, and Tang San is just a tool for Tang Hao. Everyone will have their own ending, a knife, and make up for the regrets left by the original work. Thank you for liking and watching Jumi. Call me a dog leg. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Martial Soul Linglong Core. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Martial Soul Linglong Core. Soon it was Tang San's turn, and as expected, when Tang San's hand was placed on the awakening stone, an unusual aura surged inside. Tang Yuyu's sharp eyes caught sight of the hammer that appeared in Tang San's palm with his back behind her. CV Warrior, copy. The power of the mirror endows her with the ability to imitate the faces of others, as well as the ability to replicate martial souls and soul skills. The latter is irreversible, while the former can change back to her original appearance at any time. Alright, I'm not afraid of losing my martial soul now. Tang Yuyu breathed a sigh of relief. In this world with strict hierarchical division, without strength, she could not remain stable for several years under the protection of old Jack. After all, old Jack has no children and no daughters. She dare not gamble that the simple villagers will not become homeless after old Jack's death. Now with the Haotian hammer martial soul, although it may be targeted by the martial soul hall, Tang Hao can still serve as her safe haven at this moment. After all, as long as there is Haotian hammer, Tang Erchui will not be too bad to her. Before Emperor Haotian fled the world, Tang Hao was the next leader appointed by Tang Chen. The persistence towards the sect may surpass the love for the blue-silver emperor. I just don't know how much innate soul power, It's actually the abandoned martial soul blue-silver grass. Su Yuntao was extremely disappointed. He had originally looked at the classroom and thought he could awaken a powerful martial soul. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be the abandoned martial soul blue-silver grass. Tang San obediently looked at Su Yuntao and raised a question in his heart. Uncle. What is a useless martial soul? Su Yuntao was surprised for a moment, but Tang San had some courage. The other children were all a little frightened and they saw their martial soul possessed. Waste souls refer to some martial souls that cannot be cultivated. Even if these martial souls are awakened, they cannot become a soul master. Perhaps seeing Tang San being somewhat obedient, Su Yuntao impatiently answered his question. Oh. Uncle, you haven't tested my soul power yet. Su Yuntao originally wanted to call for the next one to come, but was quickly stopped by Tang San. Okay. If you insist, then put your hand on this soul power test ball. Su Yuntao said helplessly. In his opinion, Tang San is already a confirmed useless martial soul, and there is no need to waste time. This. The light in the crystal ball is instantly filled, which is a symbol of innate soul power. Tang Yuyu looked envious from behind. However, Tang San felt that his Xiantian Gong, which had been making no progress, had been unlocked and imprisoned at this moment. Does the soul power of this world refer to internal power? Tang San's mind flashed with such doubts, and then he looked at Su Yuntao waiting for his explanation. After all, he remembered that the soul power tests of other children were not as bright. You are actually born with full soul power. Su Yuntao's slightly open chin finally closed, and he didn't expect the child to bring him so much surprise. Unfortunately, his martial soul is blue-silver grass, and even his innate full soul power is useless. What is innate soul power? Tang San's wet eyes were filled with doubts, staring straight at Su Yuntao, hoping that he could help him solve them. The innate full soul power is the highest soul power that can be awakened when the martial soul awakens. As long as you attach a soul ring, you can become a soul master. Tang San had too many questions, and Su Yuntao was not specifically there to answer his questions. Then he quickly waved his hand at the other party. Unfortunately, your martial soul is blue-silver grass. Even if it's innate full soul power, it's useless. Alright, next one. Tang Yuyu walked up, and Tang San's eyes changed. The girl had been standing behind her all along. Did she see the other martial soul she had hidden just now? Tang San pursed his lips without saying a word, standing silently on one side, out of place with the chattering children next to him. Tang Yuyu placed her hand on the awakening stone as instructed by Su Yuntao, and suddenly felt a warm force surging from her body towards her hand. Is this soul power? Something's wrong. Why do both of my hands feel a bit hot? Damn it. Triumph has backfired. Tang Yuyu quickly learned from Tang San to place the other hand behind her. She was so nervous that she broke out in a cold sweat, and she didn't know if the hidden soul was the Haotian Hammer martial soul. The awakening hall suddenly flashed with golden light, and a strong and extreme warm atmosphere swept through the entire Holy Soul village. But Tang Yuyu widened her eyes and looked at the familiar figure in front of her, while also letting out a sigh of relief. This is the current identity she set up for playing Yi Luoli's new mobile game on her own account, Little Butterfly Fairy Alun. Now it can be confirmed that the so-called Yi Luoli storyline development system bound to oneself is the task and personal information of one's own game account page. Although it was very disappointing, at least at the beginning, it gave Linglong's core martial soul and Mandora's mirror power. Su Yuntao looked at the extremely beautiful martial soul in front of him and his eyes lit up. The humanoid martial soul has a pair of elf ears with a pair of metal wings behind her, and even her skirt is made of high-tech metal mechanical splicing. The metal butterfly wings flutter quickly, although they are mechanical wings, they look not bulky at all. This vast divine aura and light attribute are somewhat like the six-winged angel in the legend of the martial soul hall. Of course, Su Yuntao knew that there was no connection between the two. After all, although Tang Yuyu's martial soul was also a humanoid beast with wings, it could not compete with the angelic appearance of the 8 poles. What surprised him was that with so many similarities with the 6-winged angel martial soul, it was definitely a powerful beast martial soul that he had never seen before. Tang San was stunned, not expecting that the little girl he usually ignored should have such a powerful martial soul. You should know that Tang San has always attributed Tang Yuyu to a little girl who loves cleanliness and is smarter than the children in Xinghun village. This type of biological martial soul is particularly beautiful. At this moment, the Holy Soul village felt warm and everyone gathered at the entrance of the awakening hall, wanting to know whose child was so successful. Even Tang Hao, who was lying in bed snoring incessantly, opened his eyes at this moment. Damn it! This familiar aura. A fierce gleam flashed in Tang Hao's eyes, and then he dodged and concealed his breath to the awakening hall. Seeing this commotion, Tang Yuyu and Tang Hao were all shocked. Isn't it an angel? What kind of martial soul is this? Surprisingly, he possesses the ultimate attribute of light like an angel, and he also feels other inexplicable auras in it. Humanoid beast martial soul and wings. There is also a similar aura that surpasses all others. Tang Hao's eyes were full of struggles. Although the metal power attached to this child's martial soul is obvious, Tang Hao still suspects that it is a mutated angel martial soul. Because it was so similar, he had a fight with Chihiro Ji and was very sensitive to the divine aura of angels. Are you willing to join the martial soul hall? At this moment, Su Yuntao invited Tang Yuyu and interrupted Tang Hao's thoughts. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Tang Erchui's Killing Heart Rises. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Tang Erchui's Killing Heart Rises. Tang Yuyu's scalp tingled when she heard Su Yuntao's invitation. After all, she now has a martial soul of Haotian hammer. If a strong person casually gives a soul power pressure, it will be exposed for minutes. She entered the martial soul hall like a sheep entering a tiger's mouth. Even if the Haotian hammer martial soul was not her original inherited martial soul, it would be because the yellow mud had fallen into her pants and it was either pulled or pulled. Thinking of this, Tang Yuyu quickly changed the topic. Brother, you haven't tested my soul power yet. Tang Yuyu blinked her eyes and looked at Su Yuntao. She felt some hair on her back and couldn't help but tremble. Tang Hao's murderous aura decreased significantly as he watched Tang Yuyu not immediately agree to Su Yuntao's invitation. He hates everything related to angels, which makes him think of those bad memories. Hee hee. You're quite interesting, girl. Alright. Let me test your soul power first. A powerful beast soul like you must have a high innate soul power. Su Yuntao said with full praise. Tang San's lips pursed tighter on the side, the blue-silver grass with innate soul power. Although he knew he had another martial soul, Su Yuntao saw Tang Yuyu's changes in his eyes. He also felt the status brought by the martial soul of this world for the first time. Surprisingly, it is an existence that is infinitely close to innate soul power. Su Yuntao's eyes lit up. The innate soul power around 9 o'clock is almost full soul power, and it is indeed a powerful martial soul that has never appeared before. Little sister. Are you willing to join our martial soul hall? Tang Yuyu had just heard Su Yuntao say these words when the sudden coldness in her heart came from her. Thank you for your kindness, but I don't plan to leave Holy Soul Village. I only have my grandfather as a relative. Tang Yuyu rubbed the goosebumps on her arm as she looked at Su Yuntao and said awkwardly. Little sister, you don't know the power of the martial soul hall. Tang Yuyu left before Su Yuntao finished speaking. Hey! Wait! Su Yuntao quickly collected the awakening stone and the crystal ball used to test soul power, and chased after Tang Yuyu. Tang Hao squinted his eyes as he watched Tang Yuyu's distant figure, his murderous aura fading away. If Tang Yuyu were willing to stay in this holy soul village for the rest of her life, it would be even better. This way, she wouldn't have a murderous heart. Tang Hao is not the Holy Mother and is willing to surrender such a genius to the martial soul hall as a future enemy. Grandpa. Tang Yuyu happily rushed over when she saw Jack waiting outside. Hey! Yo-Yo, who just awakened such a big battle of martial souls? Tang Yuyu's eyes flashed with a smile when she heard old Jack's words. This is your granddaughter. Village Chief Jack. She caused the commotion of the awakening of the martial soul just now. She awakened a very rare beast martial soul, with innate soul power infinitely close to full soul power. I would like to invite your granddaughter to join our martial soul hall. What do you think, Village Chief Jack? Join our martial soul hall, and with her talent, she will definitely become an existence with the title Douluo. Su Yuntao immediately persuaded old Jack when he saw that Tang Yuyu couldn't pry open her mouth. Title Douluo. I'm a bitch. Old Jack felt like his heart was being clenched, unsure of how to react. This child is probably the best gift he has ever received for doing good things and being kind to others in his life. Yo-yo. I didn't expect you to have such a high talent. While old Jack was happy for Tang Yuyu, he also cast a shadow in his heart. Children with such high talents were abandoned by their parents. What if one day her parents found out that Tang Yuyu was so excellent and wanted to send her back? Tang Yuyu squinted her eyes and looked at Su Yuntao's calm answer. I won't go with you. I'll stay with my grandfather all the time. This is our home. If we go on a long journey together, we may never come back. Tang Yuyu grabbed old Jack's clothes to show her determination. Old Jack was moved by Tang Yuyu's words. He just didn't react and was shocked by Tang Yuyu's high talent. Now hearing Tang Yuyu's words, he only feels that the careful care and upbringing over the past few years have paid off. Good child. If you have this kind of mindset, it's good to think about Grandpa. Let's go with this soul master, you will have a brighter future in the future. Grandpa can't miss you. Yo-yo. Old Jack's old eyes were filled with tears. Grandpa, don't cry. Yo-yo, don't leave. I have to stay with Grandpa all the time. Isn't there still a spot for a working class student in the village? I can also have a bright future by studying at Noodingcheng College, and I can also go home to take care of Grandpa. Tang Yuyu tiptoed to touch old Jack's face, and obediently wiped away the tears on his face. Su Yuntao felt embarrassed to say more about solicitation as he saw that the relationship between the grandfather and grandson was good, but it would be better to report it. After all, a top-level martial soul similar to an angel martial soul has emerged. Tang Hao in the corner saw a hint of struggle in his eyes as he watched this scene, and finally quietly left. Okay. Let's go and study at the Junior Soul Master College in Noding City. Old Jack touched Tang Yuyu's head with satisfaction, his heart bubbling with joy. His granddaughter will become a soul master in the future. Xiao San. Let's go back together. Old Jack and his granddaughter had just finished dating and were about to invite Tang San back home when he realized that Tang San had long disappeared. By the time Su Yuntao was looking for Tang Yuyu, Tang San had already gone home without a trace. The blacksmith shop at the entrance of Xinhun village. Dad, I'm back. Tang San, like before returning home, called out to Tang Hao first. This time, Tang Hao did not remain silent and instead came out of the room where he was sleeping. What martial soul has awakened? Tang Hao looked dejected and listless at Tang San, his old face devoid of desires, but upon closer inspection, he could see a hint of anticipation in his eyes. It's blue-silver grass. Tang San truthfully told Tang Hao that he had always adhered to the idea of heaven and earth being close to the ruler and teacher in his heart. Essentially, he was an adult who lacked fatherly love. So Tang San will not conceal anything from Tang Hao, except for his mysterious Tang sect techniques. After all, it's not easy to explain this thing clearly even if it's spoken out. Blue-silver grass. This is also good. Tang Hao's eyes flickered with a hint of desolation, and his figure instantly hunched a lot. But it seems like I have one more. Tang San silently released his hidden Haotian hammer martial soul. Tang Hao's eyes, which had just fallen silent, immediately regained their vitality. Twin martial souls. My son. Tang Hao pulled Tang San and hugged him, and Tang San's eyes were full of emotion. This was the first time his father had hugged him, and he enjoyed this kind of fatherly love very much. Xiao San. Remember not to show off your hammer martial soul in front of people in the future, unless you encounter a moment of life or death. Tang Hao looked seriously at Tang San, who immediately nodded when he saw his father's seriousness. Then, as if thinking of something, his eyes flickered and he finally spoke to Tang Hao. Dad. But when I awakened my martial soul, Tang Yuyu stood behind me, and she might have seen. End of this chapter. 4, Chapter 4. Questions abound. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. A plethora of questions, what? Upon hearing Tang San's words, Tang Hao felt on pins and needles. He had originally planned to let go of the child, but he didn't expect Tang San's martial soul to be known to her. Once Su Yuntao sends a message to the martial soul city and is seen by Bibi Dong, she will definitely not let go of this kind of genius. Tang Yuyu was recruited to the martial soul hall, and after learning systematic knowledge, she would know that Tang San is a twin martial soul. This is just a matter of time, and when Tang San's situation is exposed, it means that their father and son's whereabouts will also be exposed. Alas, it seems that fate has decided so. I had originally planned to let go of that child, but I didn't want the secret of Tang San's twin martial souls to be known by the other party. Tang Hao cast a deep glance at the sky outside. You don't need to worry about the mistress, I'll go out for a trip. Tang San looked at his father's departure and felt a bit enlightened in his heart. Tang Yuyu is afraid, however. Tang San has no emotions about this, and he is not very familiar with Tang Yuyu. If a secret is known to others, it is not called a secret. The aura emanating from Tang Hao's body just now made Tang San realize that his father's identity may not be simple. On the other side, Tang Yuyu and Old Jack returned to their room after returning home. Old Jack also went out to buy groceries and meat to celebrate today's good news. Let me take a look at this hammer. Tang Yuyu released the Haotian hammer in her left hand and found that its weight was truly terrifying. But just as she came out, she couldn't hold on anymore. In just this moment, Tang Yuyu put away the Haotian hammer. However, even in this moment, Tang Hao could clearly see it. Tang Hao looked at Tang Yuyu sitting by the window with a shocked expression on his face. I secretly speculated in my heart that this was the bloodline left behind by Haotian's sect and they were attacked by the martial soul hall back then. And it's also a rare twin martial soul. This qualification is not inferior to Tang San's. At this moment, his heart was in turmoil. His original murderous heart sank once again, and with it, more was his love for Tang Yuyu. Although I don't know which lineage this child is from, their seniority should be the same as Tang San's. Tang Hao is also not sure. The direct descendants of Haotian's sect were left here, which once again made Tang Hao feel guilty about what happened back then. He was originally the heir of the Haotian sect that Tang Chen had nurtured since childhood, and the emotions possessed by the Haotian sect are incomparable. No way. This child has such talent and cannot be neglected. It seems that I need to go to Yuexian and ask Yuehua to contact the sect elders. I don't know whose family this is. Tang Hao now looks more and more fond of Tang Yuyu, and this generation of Haotian sect can be considered as having a new heir in just 20 years. When this child grows up, Haotian sect will have a new sea god needle again. Tang Hao became more and more excited as he thought, and his gaze towards Tang Yuyu became more and more affectionate. I don't know what's going on. Since the awakening of my martial soul, I've felt like someone was staring at me. Tang Yuyu looked directly at the place where Tang Hao was hiding, and then murmured to herself. It's really strange. Tang Hao was somewhat surprised when the other person's gaze turned, and now hearing Tang Yuyu's words was even more shocking. What a strong perceptual ability. Tang Yuyu didn't notice anything wrong and released her exquisite core martial soul. The golden color dyed the entire room into a golden ocean. What kind of aura is this? Tang Hao felt that there was something mixed between the metallic and light properties, and this indescribable feeling made him feel mysterious and mysterious. The power of fate. Tang Yuyu felt a little surprised by the power of fate. The new fairy image she described on her ID while playing the game was the guardian of the Yi Luoli royal family who controlled the power of fate. I didn't expect it to be available in Douluo continent. It seems that only Huiyuhao, the son of Do Er's destiny, and the emperor's auspicious beast, the three-eyed golden dragon, have the power of fate, right? I don't know if the Emperor's auspicious beast still exists during this period. Tang Yuyu felt the magical power of her martial soul and suddenly realized that there seemed to be something inside her body that had opened up the barrier. Is it difficult for me to have innate soul power? Tang Yuyu only felt that her whole body was full of strength now, with a warm feeling all over her body, and a warm breath flowing through her meridians. However, the mutation has not stopped yet. In her surprised gaze, the exquisite core of the martial soul was directly possessed, and she instantly transformed into a puppet butterfly fairy with mechanical wings. And there was a halo around her body, as if condensing a soul ring automatically condensed soul rings. Tang Yuyu was stunned. Couldn't she consider herself a soul beast? Or do you mean that the elf race displayed on your system panel belongs to the soul beast race? Only soul beasts that have been transformed for 100,000 years can automatically condense soul rings. That's right. My head hurts so much. Tang Hao was also stunned. Is this child not only a descendant of Haotian sect, but also a descendant of soul beasts? Which disciple of Haotian sect, like himself, chose a 100,000-year-old transformed soul beast as his lover? But Tang San didn't have this kind of situation. Although he was born with full soul power, he didn't condense his soul rings on his own, and the reason why blue silver grass didn't awaken was one reason. Of course, it could also be because Tang San thinking of this, Tang Hao refused to continue thinking, and of course, the current situation did not allow him to continue thinking, because he sensed a huge and familiar energy of vitality surging towards the girl in front of him. Blue silver grass. How could it be? Tang Hao watched as the scattered energy of the blue-silver grass radiating from the entire Holy Soul village flowed towards Tang Yuyu. This familiar blue and gold ocean is like the one when Ian sacrificed to him that year, but now this energy is full of vitality and warmth. Seeing the increasing noise, Tang Hao had to help Tang Yuyu cover up such a momentum. But at this moment, his heart was becoming increasingly chaotic. Blue-silver grass unleashes vitality towards this child. Only the blue-silver emperor can achieve this. And this child's martial soul, a beast martial soul, a weapon martial soul, has nothing to do with blue-silver grass. Tang Hao was lost in thought and had countless possibilities filled his mind. The worship of blue-silver grass, the Haotian hammer of the second martial soul. What is going on? It's completely impossible to say that it's a child born to Ayin and others. You should know that Tang San is about the same age as this child. Tang Haosi could only think that the blue-silver grass martial soul had mutated into a humanoid beast martial soul, but is this possible? Impossible, absolutely impossible. The blue-silver emperor, who could answer his doubts, now only has a small seedling left. Many thoughts were just a fleeting moment, and Tang Yuyu has now completed the condensation of the first-century-old soul ring. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The Prison of Fate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The Prison of Fate. Tang Yuyu woke up from that warm ocean and found that she indeed had an additional soul ring on her body. Can I really be a soul beast? Tang Yuyu swallowed and luckily did not agree to Su Yuntao joining the martial soul hall. This one mistake will result in the release of a 100,000-year soul ring and soul bone. Although Tang Yuyu is somewhat uncertain whether she is truly a transformed soul beast. Tang Hao witnessed with his own eyes the child in front of him, using his soul power to condense a soul ring. Why don't you take this girl to Ian's place and see what changes will happen? Do whatever you say, but Tang Hao couldn't let Tang Yuyu go with him with her eyes open, so he knocked her unconscious and put her on his shoulder, walking towards the dense forest behind the Holy Soul village. Tang Hao skillfully arrived at the foot of the waterfall and directly escorted Tang Yuyu into the waterfall. Move away the large stone blocking the entrance of the cave, where there is a blue-silver grass with golden patterns growing in the middle. As soon as Tang Yuyu arrived, the blue-silver grass underwent a strong transformation, and the vines of the blue-silver grass climbed directly in Tang Yuyu's direction. At the moment of touching Tang Yuyu, a sad and excited emotion came from the blue-silver grass. Tang Hao was about to ask, but the girl in his arms had an automatic martial soul possession flying in mid-air. This time, it was not just a simple beast martial soul possession, but a disc gear of unknown substance rose under her feet. A golden cage is fixed around the gear, covering the entire butterfly elf inside. Tang Hao didn't know what the reason was, so he could only stare at the scene in front of him with big eyes and small eyes. You can clearly feel the aura emanating from Tang Yuyu's body, and it's impossible to escape from this golden cage. Blue-silver grass was even more excited, as if wanting to break through this cage and rescue Tang Yuyu. For a moment, Tang Hao seemed to hear the mournful cry of the blue-silver grass. "Ah-in, what's wrong with you? Ah-in." Tang Hao immediately ran to the side of blue-silver grass and gently stroked its branches, not knowing what was going on. "Child. My child. My child. Help my child." Tang Hao could only perceive such information from blue-silver grass. "Ah-in, don't worry, our child is fine. The mistress will stay in the village and nothing will happen." Tang Hao tried to comfort the blue-silver emperor, who was currently in a state of emotional turmoil, but Ah-in took the opposite path and used vines to hold Tang Hao's hand, pulling him towards the golden cage. The vines of blue-silver grass ran along Tang Hao's wrist and gently tied his fingers to the golden cage. In an instant, a massive amount of information flooded into Tang Hao's mind. This is when the martial soul hall is besieging the Tang Hao family, and Tang San goes from crying at birth to suddenly losing his voice. Then he went to the Holy Soul village, where Tang San, who had never cried or made a fuss since childhood, actually survived under Tang Hao's free range. Later, when Tang San was able to move his heart, he practiced that strange technique every day. Tang Hao didn't understand anything when he saw these things. It was because he understood too well that he kept keeping Tang San free. That is to say, the awakening of Tang San's twin martial souls today showed him the possibility of compensating for his sect and seeking revenge in the future, which led to a slight change in Tang San's attitude. Tang Hao, as a titled Douluo, wouldn't know about Tang San's abnormality. He has been different from a normal child since childhood. Tang Hao is a big man who doesn't know how to raise children, and Tang San is also obedient and clever, not crying or making trouble. At first, Tang Hao thought that during the process of being pursued by the martial soul hall, Tang San's head was affected by the aftermath of the battle. But as Tang San grew bigger and bigger, Tang Hao couldn't deceive himself at all. He was not unaware of his strange cultivation techniques. "So I can only become increasingly decadent and numb myself with alcohol, regardless of Tang San's life or death." But after all, after spending so many years together, even though Tang San had taken over his own son's body, he never complained and instead showed great respect to his father when he released him. This made Tang Hao's unusual emotions towards Tang San much more restrained. After receiving these messages, Tang Hao opened his eyes and looked at the blue-silver grass beside him in confusion. "Ah-in, why can this child make us perceive the previous scenes? And what is the golden cage outside the martial soul? I haven't told you yet. Today, this child's martial soul awakened and was able to automatically gather soul rings. Most importantly, the blue-silver grass actually worshipped her. What's going on here?" Tang Hao now truly confirms in his heart that Tang San is not his biological son. "I was just skeptical before, but I still didn't want to believe it, otherwise Tang San would have been dead for so many years. But now the fact is in front of him, his little fatherly love for Tang San is almost completely dissipated. Child. The only message conveyed by blue-silver grass is this, but how could Tang Hao not understand after spending many years with her? "You said this is our child, how could it be? Although she has a martial soul called Haotian Hammer, the other martial soul has nothing to do with you. Although blue-silver grass displays different emotions towards her, she cannot be our child. Not to mention that she is about the same age as Tang San, but I was always by your side when you were pregnant and giving birth. You only gave birth to one child or a boy, is this a girl? It's absolutely impossible for it to be our child. Tang Hao stroked the excited blue-silver grass and gradually listed reasons to refute his wife. This is the child, this is our child. Seeing the blue-silver emperor being so brainless, Tang Hao also felt somewhat helpless. Ah Yin, don't get excited. This is really not our child. The blue-silver emperor seemed to see that Tang Hao didn't believe it and went straight into the gap of the golden cage, but there was still an indescribable force that prevented the blue-silver grass from entering. Helpless, the blue-silver emperor broke off a vine and finally reached into the golden cage. Ah Yin. This has really hurt Brother Mouse's heart. The vines of blue-silver grass stretched out in front of Tang Yuyu and could feel a very noticeable traction. And I felt a majestic force of fate emanating from her. As a 100,000-year-old soul beast transformed Ah Yin, even if his cultivation is completely lost now, he can still know what this represents. This is the Emperor's auspicious beast. This is the auspicious beast of the Soul Beast clan, and the blue-silver grass vine suddenly begins to grow rapidly. The cultivation also began to gradually increase. The backfeeding of the power of fate will make the cultivation of soul beasts around the Emperor's auspicious beasts faster. Ayan's current cultivation has only reached 100 years in an instant, and Tang Hao was stunned by this scene. It is estimated that only the power of bloodline can make the blue-silver emperor grow rapidly. Is it really his and Ah Yin's child? Tang Hao was completely stunned, but his mind still unconsciously began to fill up. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Ah Yin's determination. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Ah Yin's determination. After reaching 100 years of cultivation, Ayan's consciousness became even more apparent. How? Tang Hao felt that the blue-silver emperor had become stronger, and his heart was filled with joy. Ah Yin. Your consciousness has become stronger. It seems that you will soon be able to recover 100,000 years of cultivation and transform again. How? This is our child. Her body has been occupied by someone else. Now this body is the soul beast body condensed by the power of fate. Ayan relied on Tang Hao's lack of knowledge about soul beasts and immediately fooled him. However, whether Tang Yuyu is their child or not, perhaps Ayan herself doesn't know. But now that the blue-silver emperor knows that Tang Yuyu is the emperor's auspicious beast controlling the power of fate, he must ensure her safety, which is what every soul beast should do. I know our child's body is occupied by other souls, but how could this girl be our child? He was really puzzled, but blue-silver emperor had always emphasized this. Even Tang Hao couldn't help but want to believe it. After all, there was no other explanation besides that. This golden cage is trapped by the power of fate within her. The Soul Beast clan has a supreme existence called the Emperor Erchui Beast, which is the king in charge of the power of fate. The legend of the appearance of the Emperor's auspicious beast is a turning point in the fate of the Soul Beast clan. You are a human, I am a soul beast, and I have just seen more scenes than you. After the foreign soul occupied our son's body, he committed countless crimes against the Soul Beast clan in the future. Even the human clan was deeply poisoned by his tea. The blue-silver emperor was talking about the good deeds of Tang Yuyu in her mind, such as fighting 2 battles, 3 battles, and Tang San's actions. The Soul Beast clan was fooled by him to the point of annihilation. Tang Hao didn't expect such a thing to happen, but he didn't doubt it. After all, the blue-silver emperor sacrificed his wife to him. Can you doubt this kind of friendship filled with life? But what's the connection between this girl being our child? Although I also hope our child is alive, on the surface, it really can't be our child. You didn't notice, what I just said was a turning point in the fate of the Soul Beast clan, and this time it was because our biological child's soul was occupied by extraterrestrial demons. According to the rules of heaven and earth, our child should not have existed, but At this moment, the power of fate binds our child's soul, and with the power of the fate of the entire soul beast clan, it condenses into a new body, which is why she automatically condenses her soul ring. And this golden cage symbolizes the rules of heaven and earth, as well as the divine edicts. It traps not only the power of fate, but also our soul beasts, and our own flesh and blood. Tang Hao was stunned for a moment, but he also accepted this statement. After all, he was not a soul beast and did not know. So it's really our child. A precious treasure that has been lost and regained from the dead. Tang Hao's emotions are different now. Originally, his feelings for Tang Yuyu were cold, then he had a murderous heart. Later, after learning about Haotian Hammer, his kindness turned into a slight indulgence in his eyes. Ha ha ha. Great. Our child is still alive. Ah in. I have long noticed that our son has been precocious since childhood, and the techniques he practiced later are completely different from those of Douluo continent. I am both scared and disappointed, and I have never dared to tell you. I never expected such an unexpected surprise. Our child is still alive. Speaking, Tang Hao, this big man, actually choked up. He always felt that he was sorry for his wife. If it weren't for him pulling the blue silver emperor and going to the big city to find a midwife when he was about to give birth, he wouldn't have been discovered and chased by the people of the martial soul hall. Later on, when his wife sacrificed and his son was also possibly taken away, he didn't dare to think much about it, so he drank and drank all day and lived a decadent life. Now that everything is fine, their original child was reborn from a spiritual gathering, but surprisingly, they still gave birth to a daughter. Tang Hao now has a bad impression of his son, and the sudden appearance of the small cotton jacket has brought his lost and recovered mood to its peak. The blue-silver emperor trembled as he saw Tang Hao's excited expression and shook his branches. The legend of the power of fate of the emperor's auspicious beast is true, but the blue-silver emperor is not sure if the girl in front of him is his own child. However, blue-silver grass had a different sense of submission towards her, which indicates that there is an 80% chance that her biological child's soul will reunite with the power of fate. Regardless of whether she is her own biological child or not, at this moment she must become her own biological child. Otherwise, Emperor Rui Beast, such a highly tempting soul beast, would easily be annihilated by others in the human world without Tang Hao's protection. Not to mention an 80% chance that it is one's own biological child. The blue-silver emperor will never ask her to recreate the tragedy of her past. How? Our child has both the bloodlines of soul beasts and humans in her body, which is why she inherited your Haotian hammer. However, in the future, her soul rings may condense on their own. You must protect our children well. Don't let her be like before. She is now reborn by the power of fate, but she doesn't have the ability to burn out the blue-silver grass and wildfire, and the spring breeze can bring her back to life. The blue-silver emperor vine wrapped around Tang Hao's hand and whispered softly to him. Don't worry, Ian. I will definitely take my life to protect our child this time. But his martial soul is quite powerful. Even I mistakenly thought it was an angel mutated martial soul. Maybe the group of people in the martial soul hall would also misunderstand like this. After my child goes to school, I will go to the capital of the Tiando Empire and look for Yuehua. No one will know in the future. This is our child. I will always hide in the dark to protect her. Tang San's soul that occupies our children's bodies can only become a stepping stone for our children. Speaking of the last sentence, a hint of ferocity appeared in Tang Hao's eyes. He had always been very protective, let alone Tang San occupying his biological son's body. He wouldn't do anything to Tang San, but if he finds the cause, he will definitely achieve the result. Then let that extraterrestrial soul bear the fate that his child should have borne. Upon hearing Tang Hao's words, blue-silver grass rustled and seemed to agree with Tang Hao's decision. Thank you for your hard work, Ian. We can't recognize our child now, but I will arrange a new identity for her on the surface. I don't know if Yuehua is willing or not, but you can rest assured that our child will only call you Mom. Tang Hao gently touched the branches of the blue-silver grass, and with the help of fate, the blue-silver emperor quickly reached 500 years of cultivation. Now she has grown as tall as Tang Hao. I have always believed in you, Hao. I believe you will definitely protect our children. End of this chapter. Chapter 7 Tang Hao. This is what you owe her all your life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Tang Hao. This is what you owe her all your life. How did I fall asleep? When Tang Yuyu got up from bed, she felt her neck sore and swollen. Why did she suddenly fall asleep in bed when she remembered studying her martial soul? An incredible guess rose in her heart. Can it be that Tang Erchui has come? Yo. Are you awake? Grandpa has prepared all the food, come out and eat quickly. Old Jack's voice rang outside, only to realize that it was already dark. Oh. Here we go. Saint Soul Village Blacksmith Shop. Dad. You're back. Tang San is cooking congee by the pot when he sees Tang Hao coming in with a smile on his face. This is the first time he has seen his father so happy. Is it because of his awakened two martial souls? Tang Hao put away the smile on his face and looked at Tang San, who had been with him for 6 years, in front of him. Little mistress. Come here, Dad, talk to you. Tang Hao's tone was unprecedentedly gentle, making Tang San full of longing and admiration. Dad. What's going on? Tang San walked up to Tang Hao and looked at his father with bright eyes. Tang Yuyu, that child is from our tribe. You must protect her well in the future. I didn't expect to be so close that I never noticed it. When Tang Hao said the last sentence, his tone was noticeably low, obviously because he felt guilty for not finding his biological daughter quickly. But Tang San could hear the cat smell in it, and his father had a clear sense of story. And the sudden emergence of a tribe member caught Tang San off guard. He was an orphan in his previous life, which is why he values family relationships so much. Does he have any other relatives besides his father in this life? Why hasn't Dad ever said it? And Dad's tone was full of guilt. Did he do something wrong to others? Dad. What's going on? When Tang Hao saw Tang San asking, there was a faint light in his eyes that he was determined to win. Some things are still too far away for you now. As long as you know, you must take good care of Tang Yuyu in the future. She will be your own sister in the future. If it weren't for us, she wouldn't have revealed herself in this place. Maybe she's still living a privileged life now. I will go on a long journey in a while, and she may be your aunt's biological daughter, so I must protect her well in the future. This is what you owe her all your life. Do you remember? Tang San immediately nodded and agreed upon hearing his father's seriousness. He kept tinkering with this emerging cousin. What exactly happened to him? Would Dad say he owed her for his whole life? From Tang Hao's words, he could guess that some of his family were hiding here to avoid trouble, while Tang Yuyu may have been innocent and implicated. Seeing Tang San agreeing to Tang Hao, he nodded in satisfaction. But a voice kept surging in my heart. This is what you owe my child for the rest of your life. You should take this life to protect forever, yo. Tang Hao's eyes flickered, and then he said to Tang San. You are still too young now, and there are some things that Dad cannot tell you. In 3 months, you can take the quota of working students in the village and report to the Junior Soul Master Academy in Nodding City. Upon hearing Tang Hao's words, Tang San nodded in surprise. This was the first time Tang Hao had made plans for his future. But it's not difficult to hear the story in Tang Hao's tone. I'm afraid he still has some deep-seated grudges and so on. Tang San's eyes instantly became firm. He must grow up quickly and help his father in the future. Dad. I will definitely protect Tang Yuyu well in the future. She will be my own younger sister in the future. Tang San set ambitious goals but made Tang Hao smile with satisfaction. Great. Starting from tomorrow, I will teach you the forging method and study hard. After arriving at the Notting City Soul Master Academy, if you don't have money to spend, go find a blacksmith's shop to work. Tang San nodded, his eyes filled with joy. He felt that this was the closest he had ever been to his father. It seems that the relationship between father and son has become more intimate. Little did he know that all of this was intentional by Tang Hao. After all, he wanted Tang San to become his revenge tool in the future. At night, Tang Yuyu still sat by the bed and didn't fall asleep because she was waiting to see if Tang Hao would come tonight. Perhaps he discovered it during the day when he was showcasing the Haotian hammer. No wonder from the moment her martial soul awakened, she felt a gaze stick to her. It should have been since then that Tang Hao started to focus on himself, right? Aha! I'm so tired, are you coming or not? Tang Yuyu felt a bit drowsy, and just then, a male bass sounded behind her. Do you know I'll come? What a smart child. Tang Hao's cold and hard face revealed a spoiled smile. Tang Yuyu immediately turned her head to look at the sound. It's really you. Why did you knock me unconscious during the day? Tang Yuyu's sweat surged when she saw Tang Hao, so without realizing it, she probably wanted to kill herself long ago. Plus, Tang Hao's expression is very gentle now. Tang Yuyu felt like she could have a conversation with him for a while, so she didn't have to be so nervous. Just to verify one thing. Without your permission beforehand, I apologize to you. Tang Yuyu was stunned for a moment, not expecting Tang Hao to take the initiative to apologize to her. No, it's okay. So what are you trying to verify? When Tang Yuyu spoke, she clearly lacked confidence and had a guess in her heart. Perhaps Tang Hao was trying to verify her Haotian hammer. But looking at his soft expression now, I think it's a successful verification. Although the guess was incorrect, the results were quite similar. Tang Hao was extremely satisfied as he looked at Tang Yuyu, who was calm and fearless in the face of danger. Good child. The other martial soul you awakened is the same as mine. We are the closest bloodline relatives in the world. As he spoke, Tang Hao released the Haotian hammer in his hand, and the terrifying pressure made Tang Yuyu feel a little uneasy. Tang Yuyu is a good example. Release the Haotian hammer she copied and compare it with Tang Hao's. Perhaps she has attached a soul ring now, and she can easily control the Haotian hammer, but she can only hold on for a while. They really look the same. Tang Yuyu sighed and looked enviously at the soul rings attached to Haotian hammer's body. Tang Hao put away the Haotian hammer and happily pinched Tang Yuyu's two creaking nests, lifting her high. This is still his first time holding his daughter. We are a family. You should believe it now, little girl. If it weren't for a sudden accident a few years ago that hit our home, you wouldn't have wandered to this place. Tang Hao's eyes were filled with guilt and pity. Tang Yuyu saw clearly that she, who had originally wanted to struggle in Tang Hao's arms, suddenly thought that Tang Hao wouldn't mistake herself for a child of the Haotian sect, would she? It's not impossible, at least after leaving the novice village, Tang Hao is still a very nice bodyguard. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Raising Children in Poverty and Raising Daughters in Wealth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Poor raising children and rich raising daughters. Tang Yuyu quietly lay on Tang Hao's shoulder. What should I call you when you say we are like a family from the same lineage? When Tang Yuyu said these words, Tang Hao stiffened instantly, but seeing his daughter's face full of curiosity, he could only say bitterly. Uncle. You can call me uncle in the future. Uncle. Tang Hao's sister is Tang Yuehua, right? How did she become Tang Yuehua's child again? Tang Yuyu felt that there were several crows flying on her forehead, which was too unreliable. Did Tang Yuehua really have a child who went missing during the previous siege of Haotian sect by the martial soul hall? Otherwise, this Haotian hammer of oneself was copied, how could it be Tang Yuehua's child? But this also means that she has a protective umbrella, and Tang Yuyu naturally shouted "Uncle" to Tang Hao with a quick mouth. The sound of uncle shouting shook Tang Hao's body. Hey! These things are all given to you by your uncle. You will be going to study at Notting City Junior Soul Master College in a while. If you go to study under the name of a self-funded student and use these gold soul coins to cover your expenses, then give up the quota for that part-time student to the third party. Tang Yuyu. Is there such a good thing? She remembers the bedroom of a working-class student and it's a big bunk. How could she imagine the smell? Being able to live alone in one or a few rooms is undoubtedly the best option. The 50-person bunk in the working-class dormitory is simply, "Thank you, uncle." Tang Yuyu looked at a bag full of soul coins and a beautiful blue-silver bracelet in front of her. What is this? Tang Yuyu looked at the blue-silver bracelet and asked in confusion, guessing in her heart that it might be a storage soul guide, but she was unsure. This is a storage soul guide. Your mother brought it before, but now it's left for you. There are also some coins or other things inside, and I'm not quite sure, as long as you can open it. This bracelet is a specially designed storage soul guide by the Blue Silver Emperor, with the imprint of the Blue Silver Emperor. Unless it is of Blue Silver ancestry, it is difficult to open. This is also a small trial that Tang Hao deliberately tried. Although he doesn't doubt what Ayin said, it's just a legend. What if her guess is wrong? Fortunately, there is a small item left behind by the Blue Silver Emperor on his body. If Tang Yuyu can open a storage soul weapon that cannot be forcibly opened with his own Douluo power, then he is definitely the child of himself and Ayin, his biological daughter. There really is a layer of seal. Tang Yuyu indeed felt a barrier when inputting soul power, and then used the metallic elements attached to the first martial soul to directly open this stored soul guide. After all, the fairy image she set is the guardian of the Yelyulai royal family, a decision-maker with the power of time and fate. After the fairy's coat becomes a doll, it comes with a layer of sealing magic of the Golden Prince. No matter how hard the soul guide is made of metal elements, it is easy for her to open it. But in Tang Hao's eyes, it was. Tang Yuyu actually opened the storage soul guide that requires having Blue Silver Emperor bloodline to open. There is no doubt about it now, it is definitely my own daughter. You know, Tang-san can't even open this thing. Wow. There's a lot of money in here. This has made Tang Yuyu so happy. I thought Tang Hao had given enough, but I didn't expect so much. Ha! What is this? Tang Yuyu's eyes sparkled as she saw the glowing appearance of money, and Tang Hao was smirking and indulging in it. That's great, the child is still alive, and Ayin will also return to human form, and their family will soon reunite. Tang Yuyu took out a shiny object from the soul guide and asked Tang Hao. Uncle, what is this? Tang Hao's face was originally filled with a spoiled smile, but now it has turned into a surprised expression. What? How could there be soul bones inside Yin's bracelet? But thinking that the Blue Silver Emperor was a 100,000-year-old soul beast, Tang Hao was relieved again. After all, the soul bone in front of him was just another 30,000 years old. This should be something your mother left for you. Although these things are precious, they may not be suitable for you. Don't merge soul bones for yourself without authorization. Let me know when you encounter something suitable, and I'll show you it. If you agree, then you can merge. After all, once this thing is merged, it cannot be separated from the body. It turns out to be a soul bone, but there are still several pieces inside this bracelet soul guide. Aha! Tang Yuyu nodded obediently, but a doubt appeared in her heart. Blue silver grass-shaped bracelet, something Mom left for herself. Did you ask me to call him uncle again? What the hell? But what Tang Yuyu can be certain of in her heart is that Tang Hao should have brainstormed something, treating herself as his daughter with the Blue Silver Emperor. Since Tang Hao has been by his side all day, besides seeing the Haotian hammer, he should know that he can condense soul rings. So Tang Yuyu had a clear idea in her heart, but her smile became even sweeter. There was nothing wrong with making mistakes. In this way, Tang Hao couldn't kill himself to take the ring and bone. After all, he was his own daughter and couldn't do anything about it. On the contrary, they will also help themselves block disasters after exposing their ability to condense soul rings. This is great. Tang Yuyu is satisfied. Thank you, uncle. As Tang Hao's protection for himself, why not inform him in advance of the position of the ice and fire Liangyi eyes so that the blue-silver emperor can grow earlier? But there must also be an opportunity. Wait and see, speaking out rashly will only arouse suspicion. After all, one should not know that there is only the blue-silver emperor. It's getting late, hurry up and go to bed. Children can't grow taller if they sleep late. The last sentence seemed to make Tang Yuyu fall asleep, but I didn't expect Haotian Douluo to still have such tenderness. Tang Yuyu received everything and then nodded inside the soul guide. Uncle. Can I use the gold soul coins you gave me for my grandfather? If it weren't for Grandpa Jack picking me up, I would probably be dead by now. Upon hearing the words, dead, Tang Hao's pupils contracted. Of course you can. Tang Hao nodded in agreement and then disappeared into the room, afraid that if he stayed any longer, he would reveal his true identity. Little did he know that he thought he was hiding well, but he couldn't hide from Tang Yuyu, the prophet of the plot. Tang Yuyu looked at the empty room lying quietly in bed without saying anything, afraid that Tang Hao would hide in the dark and observe herself. In fact, Tang Hao watched Tang Yuyu fall asleep and let out a faint gasp before leaving. From that night on, his attitude towards old Jack also changed a bit. When old Jack helped Tang San, he even had a somewhat annoyed attitude. After all, he wanted to let Tang San live or die. Speaking more, Tang Hao still hopes that Tang San can starve to death on his own, but how could old Jack intervene and make Tang Hao not dislike it? After all, it is his own child's body, and he cannot personally strangle Tang San. But now old Jack has done a good thing, raising his own child all the time. However, for no reason, he was one generation shorter than him in a certain age group, which made Tang Hao a little unhappy. End of this chapter. Chapter 9 Tang Hao. Tang Sanhui compensates for my sex mistakes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Tang Hao. Tang Sanhui compensates for my sex mistakes, ah-in. I'm here. Tang Hao looked at the blue-silver emperor, who already had his own height, and his heart was filled with comfort. How? At the moment when Tang Hao arrived, blue-silver grass immediately climbed up his body with vines. If it weren't for the shape of a plant, it would really be like a petite wife rushing to her boss. Ayin. She is really our biological daughter. Tang Hao was really excited tonight, even more so than when Ayin told him the other day that Tang Yuyu was his own daughter. After all, he had personally verified it, not let Ayin talk nonsense. The blue-silver emperor was a bit at a loss, and Tang Hao was dancing and excited. He was so excited that he didn't know what to do, so he could only run over to share the news with his wife. The bracelet you had before that needed to be opened with blue-silver blood. I gave it to Yo-Yo tonight, you know. In the moment I gave it to her, she actually opened it. You are right, she is truly our child, her soul reunites with the power of fate. What an incredible ability. Tang Hao's towering blue and silver vines were like hugging his wife. How? Our child. Blue-silver emperor didn't expect it to be like this. She was even more excited now. Previously, she had been talking nonsense about wanting Tang Hao to protect the child. After all, the owner of the power of fate is the emperor's lucky beast, and she must be the hope for the future of the Soul Beast clan. Although there is 80% certainty, it is also possible that it was her own speculation, but now Tang Hao has actually presented solid evidence, which makes her not excited. Yes. Our child. She's alive. We really want to thank old Jack. If it weren't for him bringing Yo-Yo back to raise her, we probably wouldn't have seen her in our lifetime, and we wouldn't have known she was still alive. Tang Hao is really grateful to old Jack now. Even between words is respect. The power of fate on Yu can accelerate your cultivation. After your child goes to Notting City College, let her keep you by your side. It won't be long like this, and we'll be able to reunite as a family. In a while, I will first go to the capital of the Tiando Empire and find Yuehua. It's not enough for me to protect her alone, the sect should also protect her. After all, my current son is Tang San, and you have nothing to do with me. This is also what the sect owes our family. At critical moments, Tang San did not protect us. Although our sect was also implicated because of us, Tang San will make up for it for us. Tang San. 6 musts. When Tang Hao mentioned this, Blue Silver Emperor rustled his leaves, obviously believing that this decision was very good. As a soul beast, she couldn't understand why Emperor Haotian didn't protect Tang Hao when they were discovered by the Martial Soul Hall. However, later on, Qianshuan Ji was beaten to death by Tang Hao, which implicated Emperor Haotian and caused them to recognize him. But what can be the relationship between Tang Yu's situation and Tang San's return to one code? So Tang Yu should be protected by the sect. I've wronged you, Ian. Soon we'll be able to reunite as a family of 3. Wait a little longer. Tang Hao gently caressed the Blue-Silver Emperor's leaves and said eagerly. The Blue-Silver Emperor Bracelet Soul Guide can also hold living creatures, so Tang Hao doesn't have to worry about how the Blue-Silver Emperor was carried by Tang Yu. How? I'll wait, the day we reunite. Is this Notting City? Tang Yu looked around and was overjoyed. She could be considered walking out of the village to feast her eyes. Tang San's attitude towards Tang Yu has also changed a lot due to Tang Hao's words. Although there is not much intimacy between the two, at least they can trust each other. But in fact, Tang San wanted to get closer to Tang Yu, and Tang Yu didn't talk much. After all, the past scenes are vividly remembered. Tang San used to pretend to be aloof and ignore Tang Yu, but now it's time for retribution. Tang San clearly knew about it, but he had no choice but to think that Tang Yu loved to play with a childish temper, but after all, she was his younger sister by blood, and Tang San still respected her family very much. Yo-Yo. Watch the way. Tang San didn't know how many reminders this was, and Tang Yu, who was staring at the road without taking a look, was already there. Old Jack also felt the change in the relationship between the two children and watched happily without speaking. Humph. You have to manage it. I'm not without eyes myself. Tang Yu disdainfully made a face at Tang San, who was stunned for a moment. She watched as Tang Yu ran away, afraid of being chased and beaten by her for making a face. Is this the feeling of family? And it's also my younger sister, which feels very different from what my dad gives me. Tang San was somewhat touched in his heart. He used to not play with children of the same age in Holy Soul Village because he was of a very old psychological age, but the girl in front of him was his younger sister by blood. No matter what, Tang San cannot have any words of refusal. However, such a lively person's emotions made Tang San very happy, and at the same time, he secretly decided to practice what his father had told him before. Swear to protect Tang Yu to the death. In fact, this is just a filter that Tang San himself added to Tang Yu. After all, in Tang San's heart, it has always been a principle of helping relatives but not helping reason. Essentially, he is a pitiful creature lacking love. Otherwise, why would Tang Hao have been ignoring him for several years, and as long as Tang Hao says something later, Tang San will inevitably execute it. When Tang Yu first arrived at Holy Soul Village, she wanted to rely on this to hold Tang San's thigh. After all, at that time she didn't have a system, unsure if she could awaken her martial soul. If she could leave a strong color in Tang San's unhappy childhood. How can Tang San even benefit from becoming a divine king later on? It has been proven that without the blood filter and the talent that can make Tang San eye-catching, such as the Shrek 7 monsters, Tang Yuyu really cannot defeat Tang San. Oh, hello. The end result of not looking at the road is hitting someone. Tang Yuyu covered her head and looked up at the person she had bumped into, who was about to apologize. Where do you come from? It's not easy to walk. I will be hit by you when I stand here. It's not intentional. Tang San saw Tang Yuyu injured and immediately ran forward to help her up. Yo-yo. Are you okay? Does it hurt? It has to be said that the treatment of blood-related filters is different. Tang San is truly a double standard, but if the target of the double standard is oneself, then it is true fragrance. It's okay. Tang Yuyu shrank her head timidly. In fact, she was a little guilty because she ran into the gatekeeper without looking at the way. He stood there still and was hit by himself, so he must have felt uncomfortable inside. In Tang San's opinion, the sound of the gatekeeper was too loud, which frightened Tang Yuyu. At this moment, old Jack, who had difficulty walking, finally walked up to the two of them. Sorry, this young man. My granddaughter didn't mean to. You see, for her young age, don't argue with her. Unconsciously, several people have arrived at the Junior Soul Master Academy in Notting City. End of this chapter. Chapter 10 Tang San. You have the way to take death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Tang San. You have the way to take death, we are here for school. This is my granddaughter and the child in the village who has awakened their soul power. Look, this is the proof of soul power awakening in the Martial Soul Hall. The gatekeeper was slightly relieved when old Jack apologized. But the eyebrows still haven't opened, it's just a desire to make some profit. He pretended to take out the proof of soul power awakening from the Martial Soul Hall and took a look. The innate soul power of blue silver grass. He felt unbelievable and looked at the two children, only to find that the girl among them was very delicate, not like a commoner's child, but rather like a noblewoman. On the other hand, the other boy had an ordinary face, although not ugly, he had no comparability with the girl next to him. You are dressed in tattered clothes like a group of beggars, and you also have innate soul power. The martial soul is still blue silver grass, so you shouldn't have come here to deceive people. I advise you to leave quickly, otherwise I won't be polite. The gatekeeper scrutinized the three people with sly eyes, looking at them in tattered attire. He thought to himself that it was impossible to make any profit. So the tone of speech was even more sinister. Hurry up and get out of here. Where did you come from? Go back to where you came from. Old Jack was pushed back by the gatekeeper in front of the two children, and then was held by Tang San with sharp eyes. A hint of anger flashed in Tang San's eyes and he quietly moved on to his arm, which was the silent sleeve arrow of his hard work over the past few months. Tang San. This person already has a way to take death. Tang Yuyu also got angry. Do you have no brain or do you think you are very smart? Who dares to forge the proof of the Martial Soul Hall? First, regardless of whether his blue silver grass martial soul is innate and full of soul power, as a gatekeeper in the Soul Master Academy, do you know that those who come here to study will all be future soul masters? If you offend a future soul master, you may already be tired of living. At the same time as she said these words, a wave of soul power appeared on Tang Yuyu's body. After being possessed by the divine humanoid beast spirit, she grew a pair of elf ears with 6 butterfly wings on her back. Meanwhile, floating outside her was a yellow soul ring. Soul Master, surprisingly, it's still a century-old soul ring. The gatekeeper was shaking like a sieve now and quickly knelt down to apologize to the old Jack and the others. I'm sorry, it was my lack of vision that offended the esteemed Soul Master Mississippi. I hope you have a lot of knowledge, and don't be too narrow-minded. Old Jack looked at the soul ring on his granddaughter, blinked to confirm that he had read it correctly, and then looked surprised. But he ultimately didn't ask anything. It's okay, it's okay. As long as the mistress and Yo-Yo are doing well. Tang Yuyu faced the benefits brought by the level gap for the first time. Douluo continent is really a world where hierarchy is paramount. As long as your soul power level is high and your martial soul quality is excellent, even a king of a country will honor you as a guest of honor. Stop it. What are you doing? Not far away came a bass, and Tang Yuyu frowned. This was a character she disliked the most. Scumbag Yu Xiaojiang. Old Jack explained the previous situation, and Yu Xiaojiang sincerely apologized to Old Jack. Then, he led Tang San and his companions to the Notting City Junior College. Yu Xiaojiang first placed all his gaze on Tang Yuyu. He had already seen the century-old soul ring floating on this girl's body. Without a doubt, she should be a child with innate soul power. But seeing Tang San's awakening of soul power proved that he was instantly stunned. Blue-silver grass. Innate soul power. Yu Xiaojiang glanced at Tang San with a hint of meaning in his eyes. The kind of ambition that even Tang Yuyu can see clearly. She didn't like the explicit gaze very much, even she could sense it. She didn't believe that Tang San, a fake child who had practiced some cheating techniques, could not notice it. Tang San didn't seem to notice the master's unusual gaze. Of course, if it weren't for Tang Yuyu noticing a slight movement of his right hand, he would have thought there was no disturbance. That place is exactly where Tang San placed the silent sleeve arrow. Good kid, I always want to kill someone when we meet. However, Yu Xiaojiang really deserves it, but he cannot be killed by Tang San in public. Cough. Tang San saw Tang Yuyu coughing and asked with concern. What's wrong? Yo-Yo. I'm fine, I just want to report quickly. This teacher is walking too slowly. Tang Yuyu pretended to be whispering to Tang San, but in fact, this volume was clearly heard by Yu Xiaojiang, a great soul master. His stiff face showed some helplessness, but with Tang Yuyu as an outsider, he felt embarrassed to expose his twin martial souls to Tang San. It seems we need to find another opportunity. With this in mind, Yu Xiaojiang quickly led the two of them to report to the office of the teaching director. After finishing his work, Tang San first sent Tang Yuyu to the self-funded dormitory, worked tirelessly to help her make a bed, and finally took Tang Yuyu away to the legendary 7 houses. Tang Xiaosan. I'm telling you that the master is definitely hitting your attention, you need to be careful. When the freshman just checked in, I heard Director Su and his team say that the master has been practicing for decades, and now he is only at the level of a great soul master. For the sake of Tang San's hard work and helping himself work, Tang Yuyu reminded him. Tang San's eyes were full of warmth, and in his eyes, Tang Yuyu was a proud and coquettish character who spoke falsely. However, in Tang San's eyes, this small flaw is just his sister's cuteness. The more we get along with Tang Yuyu, the more Tang San values this familial bond. This is the most important person besides his father. Being able to hold such a position in such a short period of time also shows Tang Yuyu's influence on Tang San. Are you okay? Good intentions don't pay off. You'd better stay away from that malicious guy he is. Don't be deceived. There can be no mistakes in martial soul cultivation. No one wants to pay for others with their own mistakes. You can go to Chisha on your own. I won't be with you anymore, Tang Yuyu let out a coquettish snort, then turned around and walked towards the outside of Notting City College. Tang San helplessly helped his forehead, he really didn't know how to talk to girls. Yo-Yo. What are you going to do? Don't run far when you go out to buy food. I'll put the things back in the dormitory and come find you later. The response to Tang San was from the back of Tang Yuyu's head. Tang San reluctantly used the ghostly shadows and quickly ran to the dormitory he wanted to go to. But I didn't expect that I couldn't get away from it as soon as I went. On the other side, Tang Yu ran to a daily cotton spinning shop outside the Notting City Junior College. Or should I be kind enough to buy you a blanket as a reward for that kid's busy schedule for me? Who is this? The shoes are so pink. Tang Yu, holding a blanket that completely covered her view, looked down and found someone blocking her. Hello, do you know how to get to Notting City Junior College? The sweet and sticky sound is like a candy. End of this chapter.